Hi, everybody. I'm Olivia F. Scott, Associate Professor of Advertising here at Loyola University, New Orleans, founder of Merge Alliance's marketing consultancy, and the host of Behind the Ad, where we peel the layers of the marketing, advertising, and marketing onion back to demystify the industry. So, every now and then, students will rave about a professor. And recently, my students in the School of Communication and Design kept talking about this one professor over and over. He's in the College of Business, so I had to go find him. And I'm thrilled that Loyola's own Associate Professor of Marketing, Dr. Todd Bacile, is joining us for the Behind the Ad edition today. He's going to talk about brands managing customer incivility. And if you're not sure about that word, just stay tuned. We're going to learn more about that. Customer incivility with customer service interactions and his introduction of the term Badvocate to the marketing lexicon. Having earned his PhD in marketing from Florida State University in 2013, Dr. Bacile is an accomplished and award-winning professor, highly regarded keynote speaker, and noted researcher focusing on digital marketing topics, which we'll talk about today. He's been published all over the world, most notably in the Journal of Service Research, Journal of Interactive Marketing, the Journal of Business Research, just to name a few. And with us today to talk about online incivility and the challenges that this brings to brands using social media for customer service is the one and only Dr. Todd Bacile. Hello, Dr. Todd.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So let's go right into it. You're king of research, king of marketing research, very well renowned. You've created this term, Badvocate. What does it mean to be a badvocate?
There's a lot of research in marketing that has to do with customer service, meaning somebody has a bad experience, they complain to a company, and then the company tries to fix it. We call it a service recovery.
Okay.
So in the old days, right, if you had a problem, it was probably in person at a store, or you called on a telephone, maybe you sent an email, maybe you mailed a letter in the old days. But when social media came around, it was different. Now all of a sudden you have people complaining to companies online, where a lot of other people can see it.
Right.
And so that was kind of a game changer. It probably started about 2010, 2011 when I was doing my PhD. So I noticed a strange phenomena that had never been identified in research before. It was when somebody complains to a company on social media, so on the brand social media page, on the Facebook page, on the Instagram page, and another customer comes along and is rude to that person who complained. Rude customer-to-customer interaction. Basically customer-to-customer online incivility. And I was curious about it because we don't see that often in the real world. And I'll give you a great example really quick. Okay, so imagine that you're in a restaurant, okay? You're eating your meal, you have a problem with it. You call the server over, the server comes over, and you voice the complaint. Now, you're in a public setting,
Right.
okay? Not everybody can easily see, but maybe the person next to you hears you complain. You would not expect the person next to you, who you do not know, to turn around and say, you know what, I think you're just a flaming idiot. You have nothing to complain about. Why don't you crawl back into whatever hole you come out of?
Right. So
You
there's no
moron.
precedent for even managing these types of this behavior.
Now, occasionally that will happen, like people that drink too much at a bar. But when it does happen, you know what a service worker does? Okay, everybody, play nice. Calm down. They immediately take charge of the situation.
Okay.
But when I was looking on social media, it was the exact opposite. What I noticed was when people get attacked by other customers, the brand has blinders on. They will reply to the complainant about their issue, but if they were insulted, if they were mocked, if they were bullied by other customer or customers, there's no mention of that. No, hey, everybody, please play nice, or hey, can you please stop treating that person uncivilly? Nothing. And so I found that fascinating because in real life that would happen. We're not seeing it. And if you fast forward a few years, now a lot of people complain online. It's
Right.
one of the main complaint conduits for brands.
Right.
And so the Badvocate is something that I coined with my fellow researchers, Jeremy Walter, Alexis Allen, and Pei Xu.
Okay.
We did a 2018 Journal of Interactive Marketing article. And basically, it's a badly behaved brand advocate.
Okay. Break it down for us.
Badvocate, a badly behaved brand. So it's when somebody complains
Yes.
and a person comes along and insults them, and that person who's doing the insulting, that rude person that's mocking them in some way, they tend to have somewhat what would appear to be strong ties to the brand. A loyal customer, someone who's knowledgeable, someone who may have some credibility with the brand, somebody who may post a lot on that message board, on that social media page. And so it's basically a brand advocate who posts a lot, but they are playing not so nice. And I think, you know, I think you understand that it's not all sugar plums and lollipops nowadays online. So we see a lot of people saying a lot of mean things, and so my research dug into that. I want to know more about this effect. Not so much how does it affect the complainant. I mean, I looked at it a little bit, but marketing research. I wanted to see how does this C2C interaction, customer to customer interaction, how does that affect the brand?
Right. Well, I want to know, how do brands actually deal with Badvocates? How have you seen them deal with Badvocates? Do they admonish them? Do they leave the comments there? Is there like a common way that you see that brands are dealing with Badvocates?
They don't.
They don't.
Rarely.
They just let the comments stay. So if it's a new shampoo and Olivia goes online and I say, oh, I can't stand this new fragrance, it's horrible. And then you say to me, just get over it. You have too much hair anyway. You should get something else. They're going to leave that comment. They're going to leave your comment. They may comment to my comment, but they're going to leave your comment.
Yes. And usually what I look at, probably insults a little bit stronger than that. And I'll give you a story. I talked to an owner of a marketing agency.
Okay.
And this is the type of person who has teams of people that are replying for brands on their social media pages. They're running the social media pages. They're the people responding to all these customers on social media. And so I showed a couple posts to this person. I showed the complainant and being rudely attacked by another customer. I said, how do you deal with it? He goes, we don't, but that's great. I love it when I see that. I said, really? Why is that? He's like, well, brands, when social media first came along, they realized we're going to lose a lot of control. We don't know if we want to lose that control because we're used to having that control. What if somebody says some bad stuff about us on social media? We don't want that. And so if somebody complains about a bad product or service experience, even if it's a legitimate complaint, it may make the brand look bad. The person I was speaking with, the marketer, said, so all things being equal, we'd love to tell that complainant, hey, go take a hike. But we can't do that, right? It would make the brand look bad. So if another customer does it, we're not doing the dirty work, they're doing the dirty work. And it may be may show our brand in a little bit better light because this person, maybe they're complaining about something that's not that important. So, and that's obviously a sample of one. That's one marketing researcher, marketer that I looked at. But that was a catalyst for my research when I was going into that, just discovering that.
So, Dr. Bacile, so many questions, so little time, but are you seeing a rise of badvocates with social media? Are there a lot of them? Are they growing?
So, actually, it's broader than that. Microsoft does a study. It's an international study they've done for at least 10 years now.
Okay.
And I think there's 20 to 30 countries they do. It's an online civility study that they do. And a lot of the research is publicly available. You can Google it and get to it. It's very detailed. And they do a yearly breakdown. How rude are we online? And look at a number of different nations. And we are getting ruder and ruder and ruder. We're getting more uncivil. We're just getting meaner for the most part online.
Do you know
most
why?
Countries.
Is there any reason why that we're becoming meaner?
There's a researcher named John Suhler. And in the early 2000s, he produced a research paper. It's somewhat famous now. He coined the online disinhibition effect.
Okay.
Meaning, when you're online, and he digs into a lot of reasons, when you're online, it's not like you're looking at someone face to face. You can call someone an idiot, a moron. You can insult them. You're not going to get punched in the face through the screen.
Right.
And so it's basically that veil of anonymity. Or pseudo-anonymity.
Yes.
Along with, there's really nobody enforcing it, right? The internet police are not going to come along and arrest you.
Right.
And brands are silent. So getting back to my research, brands are silent.
Right.
When someone gets attacked, meaning there's no policing effort. So if you're telling me there's no repercussions, I can just be mean to someone for the sake of being mean to someone, most people are going to do it.
How do Badvocates affect brands' customer service?
Okay, so let's broaden that a little bit. So how does customer-to-customer incivility, how does that affect brands online? That's what my research looks at. In particular, one avenue is the Badvocate.
Okay.
Done a number of different studies. Some are in the works. We haven't published them yet. But what we found is that if brands don't manage this, there's this sense of customer-to-customer injustice. Meaning I feel a sense of I wasn't treated fairly by the other customer. If I was the complainant, if I was the one that was attacked. I've linked that to organizational injustice, which means if I feel like I've been treated unfairly by another customer under the veil of the brand, meaning I think that they should probably see it or address it or management, I'm going to think that the brand is unfair. And when we talk about unfairness, that relates to a framework called justice. It's a famous framework in customer service research, perceived justice, organizational justice.
Okay.
And there are literally hundreds of research papers showing the links between justice and loyalty, satisfaction, purchase intent, word of mouth, attitude. Basically, when you're in a complaining situation, if you think that you have been treated fairly, justly by the organization, all those things I just said are going to increase.
Right.
Stronger loyalty, stronger satisfaction, greater purchase intent. If you feel you've been treated unfairly by the brand, it's the exact opposite. You're
Right.
less satisfied, less loyal. And so my research took a look at that in that 2018 paper. A few other things that we found, other research studies. So we found that it can lead to feelings of ostracism. If I am attacked, and in particular, if I'm attacked by another customer, and if I think that customer is a badvocate, meaning someone who has strong links to the brand, and the brand doesn't address it, I feel ostracized by the brand, and I feel less likely to want to engage in social media in the brand. That's kind of an eye-opener, because why did companies create social media?
Right.
It's a customer engagement tool, right?
Yes, it is.
And so you have, and all these things are happening within the brand's control. They can see it all, whether it's a human being or an algorithm, it's happening on their feeds. And so if you think about that for a second, it leads to less customer engagement. That's a shock. Other things that we found, it can lead to lower purchase intent. It can lead to a lesser perception of what I call service climate, meaning overall, how do you handle things on the social media page in regard to service? Service climate is kind of like a barometer as far as if you're doing a decent job or a bad job. Experiential value. If I'm treated unfairly, I'll have lesser experiential value versus more value. And so if you think about all those things I mentioned, if a brand is not going to address it, a lot of bad stuff's going to happen for the brand.
Right. So then let me ask you this. So, for brands watching who are like, yeah, I've seen some comments, I kind of didn't get involved because I saw it. Do you have any sense or any advice for brands watching around when they should get involved, like when they should engage?
Okay. So great question. Obviously, if something is over the top, if we're talking death threats or racial slurs, brands will address that if it's way over the top. But a lot of my research looks at lower level incivility, stuff that's still offensive, but maybe not over the top. And those are the comments that typically get ignored. So in my research, done a bunch of experimental studies, experimental stimuli. I show screenshots of how a brand would respond and ask people, what do you think about this? Were you treated fairly? Do you have a higher purchase intent? Do you feel, would you want to purchase from this company in the future? Would you be a more loyal customer? And what I found is that if you just add a single sentence to the brand's response, such as, hey, everybody, please treat each other with respect on our channel.
Period.
So you're not pointing at that badvocate and saying, you're out of here.
Cut it out.
You're not insulted. It's just basically you're showing your presence. I'm here, I'm watching, I'm listening, and person being insulted, I heard you and I'm respecting you.
Right.
That's all that needs to happen. And that really, in my research, just adding that one sentence, a sentence or two like that, it can totally flip around. So it's not an issue of resources. It's not like it's going to take people longer. Significantly
really
longer
simple
time to respond. So brands need to be aware of that. And hopefully my research is making a difference in that area.
I'm sure it is. So something else I want you to tell us about. Many people watching already know about trolls, right? They know about trolls. We all know about trolls. What is the difference in the definition between a troll and a badvocate?
Okay, so badvocate, someone who is behaving badly and it appears like they have strong links to that brand.
Okay.
So it could be someone that has a lot of posts on that page. Okay. Somebody that sometimes brands even put like a title or a badge, a digital badge, like power user.
Yeah,
or
super user.
Or
Yeah,
super
user. Fan. Okay.
So if there's any type of signals that someone looks at that persona and they think this person is somewhat strongly aligned with the brand, I'm not talking about an employee, but basically someone who's loyal to the brand, and someone who treats people rudely, that's a badvocate.
Okay.
So a troll is a little bit different. A troll is someone that speaks mean online, but they do not appear to have any links to the brand. As an example, you're going to see a couple of images on the screen. On the left side is an experimental stimuli that I've used before. This is a stimulus of a troll persona. So if you take a look at it, you see some rude comments, but not just the rude comments. Look at the profile picture, look at the name. If you see that profile and you see those comments, there's no evidence based purely on that there's a strong link to the brand, between that customer and the brand. Now, if you take a look at the stimulus on the right, it's the exact same rude message as the one on the left. The only difference is now you have a different profile picture. It looks like a regular human being. You see somewhat of a normal name, and you see that little badge there that indicates that there's some linkage to the brand. And so when people, in my studies, when they've seen the left image of the troll persona versus the right image of the brand advocate, of the Badvocate persona, that's had a telling difference as far as feeling more or less sympathy. If you're insulted by the Badvocate, you sympathize more. If you are insulted by a troll, you don't feel as much sympathy. If you're insulted by a troll, you don't feel as much ostracism from the brand. If you're insulted by a Badvocate, you do feel ostracism from a brand. And those all lead to, as we talked about before, they lead to a number of different bad things that can happen for the brand. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? Brands love loyal customers. Brands love when customers talk about them online, hopefully in a favorable way. Mm-hmm. So if someone's complaining about a brand and a Badvocate comes along and says something rude to that customer in an effort to defend the brand, a lot of brands look at that and say, wow, that's good, like my story from before.
Right.
So, but what they don't understand, and what my research is starting to show, that it's actually not good.
It's not.
Because you know what? You have one complainant, their feelings may be hurt. Yeah. You have one Badvocate or troll who's strutting their stuff, you know, their big stuff in it on that one comment. But you have hundreds or thousands or millions of people watching it. A lot of my studies take that observer perspective. Imagine you see these two people. Would you buy from this company? What's your attitude to the company? Would you talk favorably about this company? And so what brands think are pure gold, these loyal customers that are defending them online, it's actually the other way around.
So let's talk about trolls, like what the definition is. Is it simply when someone says something mean to someone online, does that make up what a troll is?
So a definition is someone that's getting their kicks. They're getting amusement at the misfortune of somebody else, and they're piling on.
Okay.
That's a quick definition. But I want to be clear about trolls. This may surprise some people out there because we all like to think we're good people, but to a degree, we all, to some varying degree, may at certain times exhibit troll-like behavior. And what I mean by that, I'm not going to ask you if you've ever in your life posted even one rude comment to someone online, but chances are most of us have, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe we're in a bad mood, maybe we're defensive, maybe something upset us, maybe you thought that it was deserved. And so in that moment, what happened? I mentioned the online disinhibition effect before.
Right.
You had the veil of anonymity. You weren't going to get in trouble. Nobody's going to arrest you. You had the freedom to say what you want, freedom of speech.
Right.
And you said something that maybe was rude. So to a degree, a lot of us will at times exhibit troll-like behavior. It doesn't make us a troll, though. So a troll, if you think about the dastard underbelly of the internet, I mean the deepest, darkest people that just get their kicks, and there's a lot of stories when people have died, and there's Facebook memorial pages,
right?
And there's been a lot of news stories about trolls that take over that page, and they make fun of the person or the people or the family of the deceased,
right.
And it's just, and I mean, there's no humanity in that. I mean, there's no kicks, there's no reason to do that. And so that's a good definition of a troll. They're just making fun of a situation they probably shouldn't make fun of, and they're taking amusement at someone else's pain, someone else's misfortune.
So Dr. Bacile, as we close out today, with all of the research and all of the amazing award-winning work you've done in this space, I think you're the best person for me to ask this question, which is how do we restore humanity to social customer service interactions? How can we do that?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer for that, but I will say this. Research is showing from the Microsoft study and other studies as well, two of the most powerful signals, if you will, that people are seeing negative dialogue, uncivil dialogue, is coming from social media and politicians. I mean, you look at, and this is not a Republican, Democrat, Independent argument, but I mean, simply, if you just look at the dialogue, people disagreed 20, 30 years ago, but not like today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see these comments, so when the normal person sees that dialogue, right, and it's all over Fox or CNN or NBC, any news outlet, they show that dialogue, they're absorbing that, and it's being normalized.
Yes.
I can talk to other people like that. I can talk to my boss like that. I can talk to some idiot that I don't know on the internet like that. And so that, along with, again, the veil of anonymity, you can talk to anyone instantly on social media. You're not going to get in trouble. I mean, unless you really go over the top. And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing an increase. So when is that going to stop? I don't know. We kind of started down this spiral, this dark path of humanity, and I don't know how we're going to get out of it.
By any chance, any of those reports were reality television shows where they cited as well? I'm just curious. You don't have to answer that. Anyway, I feel like that could be a part of it too. So thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely continue to check out Dr. Todd Bacile's research. You can find him on Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Twitter.
On Twitter?
I'll tell you what, I teach a consumer data privacy course. And
here at Loyola.
Yes, and I'm very careful with social networks and sites I use. I do not use Instagram because I don't need a social network to take ownership of the pictures of my kids and use them for advertising purposes for the next 1,000 years. So I just don't do Instagram.
All right, so we're Twitter.
At Todd Bacile.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, and thank you for that little tidbit too, right? So we appreciate you guys joining us today. And if I had any requests, I usually don't have requests of you, but the yogi in me just invites you to please be kind. If you're online and you're engaging, whether it's a brand interaction or whether it's a friend interaction or even an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend interaction, can you just be kind and help us all restore humanity? See you guys soon. Thanks so much.